Okay, Sky, why don't you tell us about what we're doing today?
We have some sugar maples here, and they're pretty big. We have 30 to 40 of them, and sugar maples are one of the best kind of maple syrup trees. You're going to need as many buckets as you want. We have 13, and we have one hung up right there. And you're also going to need these things called spirals. Spiles. Drill into the tree 2 to 3 inches and put it in. And then you hang your bucket on, and it needs to be above freezing and below overheating for the maple syrup to come.
So during the day it needs to be above freezing, and then at night below freezing, right? And then what happens? What happens when it's above freezing?
Will come out and into your bucket.
Syrup or sap?
Sap.
Sap, okay. Do you remember how many gallons of sap? These are 5-gallon buckets. Do you remember how many gallons we're going to need to make 1 gallon of syrup?
5.
That would be nice. More like up to 40, 30 to 40.
To make 1 gallon?
To make 1 gallon of the syrup you love so much.
A gallon?
A gallon? That's a 5-gallon bucket. So 5 gallons fit inside that bucket. Okay, so Sky and I are reporting on our first year trying to get some maple syrup out of our trees. We have about 30 or 40 sugar maples on our 9 acres. And here's the first one we just tried. And what we did is we took a 7/16 inch drill, and we drilled at an angle kind of like that into the tree. Okay, the next thing they're going to do is put in the actual spile, and then they're going to hammer that in. Aiden's going to be responsible for that. And the hook, of course, has to face outwards, and then we'll hang the bucket on that. I just need to drill a little hole in the bucket. So now Sky is cleaning out the second hole in this big, big maple tree. It's probably, well, certainly 2, maybe even 3 feet in diameter. So we're actually going to put 2 taps in it. And he's just drilled in with a 7/16 bit. And we'll put the spiles in next. So the boys and I have just finished putting out about half of our 12 or 13 5-gallon plastic buckets, and it's definitely not above freezing yet, although it's supposed to get up to 34 today. So we don't see any sap flowing, which of course makes me nervous since I've never done this before. So here's one of our first sap runs, and the drops, you can see how quickly they're coming. It's about 38, 39 degrees today, and there's also a bit of sun. And it's February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. Well, here you can see the vigorous boiling of our evaporator, which is wood-fired and doing really well. Totally psyched about it. Works way better than trying to cook these pans or a big pot on the grill, which is propane-fired. And of course we can use wood from our land. And we're boiling down just 5 gallons of sap that we got, which is very little. But at least it'll give us a chance to test out the system and see how it's working. And I'll just take a step back so you can sort of see what the whole thing looks like. That front thing is a slightly shallower and definitely less wide steam pan. It's 6 inches wide and 6 inches deep by 20 inches. And the other ones are 8 inches deep. There's 2 of them, and they're 12 inches wide by 20. And I know it's hard to see, but there's our little stack to create a draft. And the whole thing was quite inexpensive, and it seems to be doing just a great job. Well, now I've reduced everything to this one big steam pan, and you can see the fire's still going strong. And I haven't put any more wood in after that first wood. And then here's what's in the pan. It's actually really cool to be able to see it like that. And this gives you a good sense for how it boils down. So now we are at the last and most delicate part of the whole process, where you wait for the maple syrup, the sap, to boil down to 3.9 degrees Celsius above the temperature that water boils at that particular altitude and on that particular day, because it varies with barometric pressure and it has to be very precise. So I'm going to actually stop filming now because it's getting too close to the boiling point. And finally, here is the result of all that effort, our practice run, actually in a honey jar.
What does the napkin do?
That streams out I forget what they call it. I think they call it like maple sand or something. Like little pieces of solid stuff that we don't want to have in the maple syrup. And I
Oh,
got
I
this.
see these black dots.
Careful, don't touch it. That's it. It gets that out of it. Well, here comes Aiden. Okay. Who can explain to me what's happening?
Syrup.
No, come on, really, try. You know from the very beginning. Let's hear.
Snowballs hit
Aiden, can you
camera.
explain from the beginning what we're doing?
What we're doing is my dad thought that the maple syrup at the store was too much money. So he wanted to make our own maple syrup. So first we sawed some holes in the trees, maple trees. Then we put a little tube in there. Then we put a hanger on
Aiden, why don't you
the
look at me
tube.
when you're talking, right?
And then we put empty one of those buckets
Right.
with the camera.
Oh, the camera at the buckets. Okay. Then we hung the
And
5-gallon bucket.
Then when it was hot enough for the maple syrup to flow, it started flowing, dripping maple syrup into the buckets.
Mm-hmm.
And then we, about a week later, have to come get the buckets and then boil them in this
Here, why don't you
stove
show me that? Can you
that
lift
we
up one of
made.
the things, Aiden? That's our concrete block maple syrup evaporator. Aiden's going to show us what's inside. I don't think it's come to a rolling boil yet. No, but it's getting there. We just started about half an hour ago. Do you remember how many gallons of the maple sap we need to get to the maple syrup?
1 gallon?
1 gallon of maple sap makes how many gallons of maple syrup?
0.
You
need 8 gallons to make 1.
How about 40? 40
Right.
gallons. Yep.
40.
And how many do you think we got? How many do you think we've gathered today? How many gallons of sap?
Probably about 20 to 15.
I'd say close to 40. I'd say close to 40. Okay, so there we have it. Well, we're boiling off the last of this year's sap, and the trees are still dripping a little bit, but honestly, we've put enough time into that for the year, and we got, or we will get, by the time this is done, I think 5 to 6 gallons of actual syrup. And we had a great adventure doing it. It's not too time consuming in that you can look down from inside the house. For example, I'm working in my office and just see how things are going. And then reload the wood upon occasion, every 45 minutes or hour. But still, you know, it kind of occupies some of your attention. And so I'll be happy now that we're done with it. So here we have the results of our first year of making maple syrup. At least 5 and up to 6 gallons, depending upon exactly how full the different jars are. And the season has now ended for us. It's April 7th.